Throughout the Challenger Concept series, I have done my best to bring you characters that I personally find interesting and would like to see playable in a platform fighter like Smash Bros. While I do my best to make each character as fleshed out, yet as true to their character as possible, it's not often I get to introduce a character to my audience that they haven't heard of before. While this series is no stranger to covering smaller characters, the character I'm talking about today is by far the smallest I have ever done, and I can only hope that, by the time this video comes to a close, that I have managed to convince you to give one of my favorite games of the year a try. As we round out the year and look to the future, I ask that you come along with me as we take a trip into a world of dreams. A world of possibilities. The world of Pseudoregalia. Sybil. Sybil is a dangerous rushdown fighter who excels at dancing around her foes with her unmatchable levels of mobility, with a variety of mix-ups and frame traps allowing her to sweep up opponents in a whirlwind of damage when she manages to find an opening. With a variety of unique movement options at her disposal, Sybil offers the player a wide variety of ways to start combos, close gaps, and generally move around the stage in a way that no other Smash character can. With these tools allowing her to force engagement with her foes, or even disengage from an encounter should a fight not be going in her favor. All of this makes matchup knowledge against Sybil very important, as those who fail to learn her unique tricks might fail to keep up with her pace. Despite her dangerous upsides, Sybil still sports a fair amount of weaknesses as a fighter, with her two major ones being her overall average range, and a fairly poor disadvantage state if she ends up making a mistake. This means that, despite sporting disjoints and a projectile, Sybil might end up having a difficult time playing the neutral against characters whose disjoints outrange her own. But even if that's the case, her speed and mobility based kit allows her to break past keep away options and punish accordingly, if her player knows what they're doing. As a Sybil player, it's your job to use these unique mobility options to capitalize on mistakes and force the opponent to play the neutral by your rules. And once they've got nowhere to run, force them into a corner and break their defenses open with a level of grace that only Sybil can display. Sybil stands as a fairly tall humanoid character, with her height coming up to characters like Ryu and Terry. A mysterious individual who walks in the land of dreams, not much is actually known about who Sybil is or where it is she comes from, but given her acrobatic prowess and her tired eyes, it's clear she's someone who has seen more than her fair share of conflict. As for the game she comes from, Pseudoregalia is a Metroidvania that is built around an intricate movement system, with this system slowly being built up over the course of the game. And once all power-ups have been acquired, your ability to maneuver around the various levels is limited only by your creativity. Having been created by a lone developer by the name of Ritzler, an individual whose other work I highly recommend you check out, it's not hard to understand why this game has been received so well by the general public. I meant what I said about the gameplay. This is just an added bonus. Getting back on topic, Pseudoregalia's focus on movement and using your surroundings to your advantage are also aspects that Sybil will be bringing along with her to a platform fighting game environment. And while she might not be able to wave dash, well, at least not in this game anyways, Sybil's ability to move around the stage with stuff like bunny hopping, jump canceling, bouncing off walls with the help of her sun greaves, and even sliding up and down walls with the help of her cling sleeve, put her in a league that's all her own. Imagine if wave dashing was part of that repertoire though. In terms of mobility options, Sybil sports two jumps, all while being able to wall jump and wall cling. Speaking of Sybil's unique movement system, and moving on nicely from her character basics, it also happens to serve as her character mechanic here in Smash. Having been dubbed Dreamwalker thanks to her origins, Sybil is capable of playing around with screen space in ways that no other character can, as many of her attacks sport cancel windows, both at the start and end of their animations. From being able to jump cancel most of her grounded normals, to faking opponents out by jump canceling out of a move's startup frames, to even carrying her momentum forward while jumping out of some attacks, Sybil's ability to pick her fights and disengage from bad encounters are some of the best in the game. But while that's the case, Opponents that can predict when she's going to disengage, or better yet, what direction she'll disengage in, still have a chance to tech chase her and punish accordingly. With this forcing the Sybil player to think on their feet and not be predictable in their movements, should they want to keep the upper hand in the fight, especially against opponents trying to keep her back, as nothing messes with a flowchart more than unpredictability. It should also be mentioned that there's no limit as to how these tools can be used, as just like the movement system of Pseudoregalia, the potential of Sybil's options are based both on the creativity and consistency of her player. Fighting games like this should always respect their players' desire to express themselves, to grant their players characters with enough substance on a surface level to start learning, but also a level of depth that makes them want to keep learning, to keep improving, and I feel Sybil's design is all of this and more. These have been the basics of Sybil as a fighter, a highly mobile rushdown character whose strengths lie in her ability to make the most out of smash freeform movements, and allowing her player to lock opponents down and pick her fights in ways that almost no other character can. While dangerous when in control of a match's flow, getting to this point will require a serious amount of dedication from her players. But once you've learned all she has to offer, it'll be hard to go back to current Smash's lackluster movement options. With all of that out of the way, it's time we moved on to Sybil's normals and discuss the attacks that will make use of her character mechanic. Sybil's normals will mainly be comprised of attacks using her signature weapon, a large tonfa known as Dreambreaker, along with powerful kicks courtesy of her Sun Greaves. Overall, Sybil's attacks are designed to hit fast and flow into each other very well, all while feeling natural enough to cancel into her plethora of mobility options. Sybil's neutral combo is Dreambreaker Combo, a simple 3-button combination that will have Sybil strike her opponent with Dreambreaker, with these attacks covering a moderate range and launching opponents away after the final hit. This is based on Dreambreaker's standard combo attack from Pseudoregalia, and thanks to the speed supported by the first strike, Sybil's player can use this to check buttons at close range, and potentially tech chase their opponent after the final hit at lower percents. On top of that, the player can choose to push themselves forward during the combo in order to maximize Sybil's pressure, with this referencing the way that Sybil can attack while moving around in her home title. Despite this, however, this combo's upsides are balanced out by its inability to cancel into anything other than shield, meaning that outside of its speed, its uses are fairly limited. Try using this to stop close range buttons or get combos going at lower percents. Sybil's forward tilt is Rushing Dream Combination, another 3-hit combination that will have Sybil perform an advancing series of strikes with Dreambreaker, with each attack linking into each other before launching the opponent away after the third strike. Compared to her neutral combo, all 3 of the attacks in this combo are not only cancelable through shield, but can also be jump cancelled or link into some of Sybil's specials, making this Sybil's strongest engage option and one of her best mix-up options. And since the final hit is the only one that has any substantial knockback to it, it's an option that can work at almost any point in the match. However, as strong as it can be when it gets going, this combination's main drawback is its startup speed, which in turn makes it more difficult to land the neutral and easier to stuff at close range. Thankfully, the combo's abundance of cancel windows makes this weakness negligible if you're using it from footsie range, but do mind your spacing if your opponent has their guard up. Sybil's up tilt is Rising Break, a simple yet effective attack that will have Sybil perform a rising strike with Dreambreaker, knocking any nearby foe up into the air on hit. This move will hit fast and cover a decent range, with the disjoint of the weapon allowing Sybil to effectively start combos, pressure platforms, or juggle foes that are trying to land, especially at lower percents where it can link into itself multiple times. While hard to challenge from above, this attack can be punished if it's blocked at close range, but all in all, it's a fairly safe attack that can be used at almost any point in a stock, thanks mostly to its low knockback growth. Sybil's down tilt is Slumber Sweep, a quick attack that will have Sybil perform a sweeping low kick, with this attack covering a decent range and coming out fairly fast. In comparison to her other grounded options, this move stands out as Sybil's strongest neutral poke, with its quick speed allowing her to check her opponents and stuff misplaced over aggression. Aside from its strong neutral presence, opponents hit by this attack will be knocked up and away from Sybil, putting them in the perfect position for follow-up attacks and potential chases depending on the percent value. Just make sure you mind your spacing, as this attack lacks the disjoint provided by Sybil's other grounded normals. Sybil's dash attack is Break Bullet, a powerful attack that will have Sybil perform a rushing strike with Dreambreaker, with her entire body being put behind the force of the blow and launching anything in the move's path with solid force. This attack's greatest strength is the amount of horizontal range that Sybil will cover as she rushes forward, with this allowing her to catch mistakes in the neutral and close the gap against opponents trying to keep their distance. And in comparison to her other grounded options, this attack can serve as a kill option at higher percents, and is one of her overall best tech chasing options. Just don't let your opponent see it coming, as it's fairly easy to punish on both shield and whiff. For her get-up attacks, Sybil will attack around herself with a pair of spin kicks, all while performing a sweeping strike with Dreambreaker for her ledge attack. Sybil's smash attacks are designed to be more powerful showings of her acrobatic prowess, with these large flashy attacks sporting some solid power, decent range, and a surprising amount of versatility. Aside from that, Sybil will also utilize one of Dreambreaker's upgrades to deal sizable damage and effectively close out stocks. Speaking of which, Sybil's forward smash is Strike Break, a powerful close-range strike that will have Sybil thrust Dreambreaker forward with serious force, with this thrust causing a wave of light to emit from the weapon as it launches anything in its path. In comparison to Sybil's other options, this attack is Sybil's strongest kill confirmed by a notable margin, with it sporting some solid startup speed and a disjoint that can allow it to win trades and punish poor tech options from your opponent. Despite this, however, this attack is kept balanced by its fairly short range, meaning that positioning with this move is crucial to its success, as being just a bit too far away will leave you wide open to some serious punishment. Sybil's up smash is Sunrise Strike, a stylish yet graceful attack that will have Sybil perform a powerful backflip kick, her sun greaves cutting through the air like golden swords as they launch any opponent upwards on hit. This move will cover a solid amount of range, allowing the Sybil player to effectively punish opponents trying to recover high, land, or camp on platforms above her, and thanks to the power stored in her legs, Sybil will leap quite high into the air as she attacks, allowing her to bypass incoming attacks, and even cancel on hit if she lands on a low platform. Just make sure it has a chance to hit, however, as this attack is Sybil's slowest smash attack on the recovery, and is very easy to punish if it's blocked or whiffed. Finally, Sybil's down smash is Sweeping Dusk, another highly stylish attack that will have Sybil leap up into the air, and in a flash, she'll kick Dreambreaker into the ground below her, causing it to emit a wave of light that will launch any nearby opponent with solid force. This attack will hit on both sides of Sybil simultaneously, allowing her to use this as an Okizeme option and make it far more difficult for her opponent to get off the ledge. And since Sybil pushes her hurt box up into the air as she attacks, she can effectively punish over aggression or those trying to keep her out. However, like Sunrise Strike, this move is fairly slow on the recovery and is very easy to punish on block, so try to refrain from using this attack when you aren't in an advantage state. As is befitting of her acrobatic prowess, Sybil sports a pair of high-flying jumps that allow her to easily challenge jump-ins and follow-up combos deep into her opponent's stock. And to complement this high-flying design, Sybil's aerials are designed to hit fast and flow well into one another. It's the same design philosophy as her grounded normals, and you'd better expect to get juggled if you get snagged by one of these attacks. Sybil's neutral air is Light Ring, a quick yet reliable attack that'll have Sybil spin around in mid-air with Dreambreaker in hand, with the Tonfa's lower half hitting on either side of her and knocking back any opponent that gets too close. This move's biggest strength is its quick startup speed and very quick cancel window, with this allowing Sybil to combo into this move either multiple times in a single jump, or juggle opponents by fast falling with this attack out of a short hop over and over again. But as your opponent's percent rises, this move will lose said combo potential, and slowly become a neutral tool designed to force 50-50s and tech chases. This is thanks in part to the attack's low launch angle, which can force opponents into a hard knockdown. But just try to not be too predictable with this attack, as its average range and poor shield damage means they can be punished if your opponent sees it coming. Sybil's forward air is Sunstrike, a highly versatile attack that will have Sybil perform a straight kick, with this mimicking the way that Sybil is shown to kick with the Sun Greaves in Pseudoregalia. While fairly simple at face value, Sunstrike sports a plethora of extra effects that set it far apart from Sybil's other normals, with the first and most notable one being the fact that, if Sybil comes into contact with a solid surface, she will be able to kick off of it and bounce up into the air. This is the main platforming trait of the Sun Greaves in Pseudoregalia, and here in Smash, this will greatly improve Sybil's longevity offstage and make her edgeguarding potential all the more dangerous, although the player can only perform this a total of 3 times before they're forced to land. On top of this, Sunstrike also sports a long-lasting hitbox, and in turn, 2 different levels of damage it can perform depending on when it lands. If the opponent is hit by the initial kick, they'll take solid damage and be launched with solid force, but if the opponent is hit by the lingering hitbox, they'll take small damage and be knocked back a short distance, with this putting them in the prime position for air-to-ground conversions. Sybil's up air is Golden Arc, another quick yet effective attack that will have Sybil perform a backflip, all while striking any nearby opponent with their legs and knocking them upwards into the air. While a bit slower than most of her aerials, this attack sports a quick cancel window that can combo into itself in a variety of ways, such as juggling an opponent you knocked off the ground with one of your tilts, or starting combos by fast falling with it. On top of that, the arc of the attack will cover Sybil's entire hurt box as she attacks, allowing her to win trades and make it generally difficult to counter from above. But since the attack isn't disjointed, it might end up losing or getting stuffed if used at an inopportune time. Sybil's back air is Solar Reversal, a more powerful take on Sunstrike that will have Sybil spin around in midair, all while attacking with a powerful kick that will launch away foes on hit. This move will share all the unique upsides provided by Sunstrike, allowing Sybil to cross up opponents and utilize said bonuses regardless of which direction she's facing when off stage, with the only real difference between these two attacks being their launch power and their startup speed. Out of the two, Solar Reversal sports more power and a slightly slower startup speed, and in turn, it's also her best aerial kill confirm that can close out stocks at decent percents, or even earlier if used off stage. But its lack of a disjoint means it also ends up sharing a lot of Sunstrike's weaknesses as well, so be sure you mind your spacing. Finally, Sybil's down air is Daybreak Drop, a unique take on your traditional spike that will have Sybil swing Dreamwalker in an arc below herself, with this hit covering a wide horizontal range and sporting both a sweet spot and a sour spot. If the opponent is hit by the sour spot, they'll be knocked away horizontally and take a moderate amount of damage, but if the opponent is hit by the sweet spot, they'll take increased damage and be bounced upwards, with this also pushing Sybil upwards and putting her in the prime position for potential follow-ups. This attack is based on the Ascendant Light ability from Pseudoregalia, which allowed Sybil to bounce off of dark orbs in order to reach places she couldn't normally reach on her own. And here in Smash, this is one of Sybil's strongest aerial combo bridges, and one of her best ways to set up kills off the top of the screen, with the Sybil player even being able to bounce off of her opponent multiple times in a single jump cycle if she reads their DI correctly. While that might sound a bit strong, it should be noted that the hit stun of this bounce will decay with each use, meaning that opponents hit by more than 2 bounces will be able to act out of the attack and punish Sybil almost immediately, so don't think you can bounce your opponent to the top of the screen in order to secure easy kills. It should also be noted that Sybil will bounce off of her opponent even if the attack is blocked, meaning you might be able to catch an opponent who tries to punish you preemptively, even though this might not work against every character. Sybil will grab her opponent by reaching forward with her free hand, with the hand she grabs with swapping depending on which direction she's facing as she performs a knee strike for her pummel. As for her throws, Sybil's options are designed to accentuate her acrobatic potential, with their stylish visual design masking what are fairly simple attacks at their core. From repositioning tools to combo stars to even stock closers, Sybil sports it all and more. Sybil's forward throw is Sun Splash, a simple yet effective throw option that will have Sybil leap up into the air, all before driving her foot into her opponent's face with a fairly powerful kick. This throw sports some solid knockback and some decent damage, this allowing Sybil to push opponents into tech chase scenarios that can remain effective even later into her opponent's stock. But its middling knockback growth means it won't be securing kills at any reasonable percent. It can also set up offstage scrambles if used near the ledge, so don't be afraid to push your opponent into potentially rewarding scenarios. Sybil's up throw is Shining Scythe, another simple yet effective throw option that will have Sybil perform a backflip kick, with this striking her opponent in the chin and knocking them upwards from the force. This throw's knockback and damage are roughly on par with that of Sunsplash, with the main difference between them being Shining Scythe's ability to link into aerials at low to mid percents, and in turn, have a bigger part in Sybil's game plan. This combo window will disappear as your opponent's percent rises, however, so it will start to lose its usefulness the later you get into your opponent's stock. Sybil's back throw is Crushing Star, a more flashy throw option that will have Sybil leap up and grab her opponent between her thighs, and in a flash, she'll flip backwards and slam her opponent into the floor. This slam will launch your opponent away with solid force, and, at higher percents, can even be used as a kill confirm. Despite this, however, it's best used as a more powerful version of Sunsplash, in that it can force opponents off stage, or put them in a position that allows for Sybil to tech chase effectively, so don't be afraid to put them in the vice. Though I'm sure some folks would like that a lot more than others. Finally, Sybil's down throw is Dream Drop, the last of Sybil's simple yet effective options that will have her kick out her opponent's balance, all before leaping up and jumping on top of them, with the impact of her greaves causing them to bounce off the floor and up into the air. This throw's low damage and low knockback growth making it an excellent combo throw, with its long-lasting effectiveness making it Sybil's most dangerous throw by a notable margin. As a result, it's a throw you're going to be going for a majority of the time you land a grab, which in turn means your opponent might be able to predict it and punish it at certain percent thresholds. As a result, it's best to mix up your options if you can afford to do so, as variety is the spice of life, and the quickest route to your opponent's defeat. It's now time for Sybil's specials, and much like the Metroidvania heroes that came before her, Sybil will utilize a variety of techniques that she can acquire throughout her adventure in Pseudoregalia. In terms of design, all 4 of these tricky attacks have multiple purposes in Sybil's game plan, all while being the core toolset that allows her to extend combos and play with her screen space in ways that no other character can. Just make sure you don't overextend, as while these options are very rewarding when used properly, the time it takes to use them properly might be longer than your average character. Starting with her neutral special, Sybil will make use of a versatile multi-part projectile that can either deny her opponents ways to escape or be the last thing they see as they try to run away. Breaker Toss. With this, Sybil will take her Dreambreaker and toss it up into the air, with the Tonfa traveling in an arc before coming back down towards the ground. Before tossing, the player is capable of holding the B button in order to alter the move's launch trajectory, and should an opponent be caught on its travel path, they'll take decent damage before being launched in the direction that Dreambreaker is traveling in, with Dreambreaker itself then immediately returning to Sybil's hands as the damage is dealt. This aspect works for Breaker Toss regardless if Dreambreaker hits its mark or not, with this meaning that Sybil is never without her main weapon for too long. And while it can be pocketed by Villager, Sybil will still get Dreambreaker back if it's out of her hands for more than 5 seconds worth of time. Once Dreambreaker becomes an active projectile, Sybil will sport unique normals in the place of her tonfa attacks, with these attacks mainly consisting of kicks that, while dealing less damage, serve the same purpose as their regular counterparts. But all of this pales in comparison to what Sybil can truly do with her Dreambreaker once it becomes active. As soon as the weapon becomes active, the player is capable of jumping up and hitting the tonfa with Sybil's forward or back air, and once kicked by her Sungreaves, Dreambreaker will change from a simple arcing projectile to a high-speed attack that will home in on the current position of your closest opponent and launch them away with heavy force on contact. This property change will greatly improve Breaker Toss's damage and knockback, with this allowing Sybil to snipe opponents trying to keep her away, or as a means of punishing bad tech options. And on top of that, this aspect of Breaker Toss can be activated at any point in the projectile's lifespan, meaning you can use the arcing projectile to cut off space before you kick to maximize pressure. Just make sure you're wary, as opponents who sport reflectors will be able to send it back your way if they see it coming. Should you wish to avoid being killed by your own weapon, sometimes it might be best to forego kicking Dreambreaker at all, or maybe even use it to bait out reflectors and, in turn, punish with either pokes or a grab. Moving on to her side special, Sybil will make use of a highly versatile multi-part movement option that will allow her to press the advantage, greatly improve her overall mobility, and pressure her foes from almost anywhere on the screen. Another technique that Sybil can acquire in Pseudoregalia, Slide and Solar Wind. With this, Sybil will perform a sliding dash either on the ground or through the air, with her hitbox being shrunk down allowing her to duck underneath incoming attacks. This attack will harm any opponent that gets caught in Sybil's path, and if blocked, Sybil will be able to pass through her opponent's shield and potentially push herself out of punish range before her foe can respond. There's also no difference in how much range Sybil will cover when she's sliding on the ground or in the air, and if Sybil uses this attack close to a ledge, she will slide right off of it, allowing her to throw herself off stage in order to pressure opponents trying to recover. However, as previously mentioned, this is only one half of the move's potential, as once the beat button is pressed again mid-slide, Sybil will be able to utilize the second half of her side special, Solar Wind. With this, Sybil will throw herself forward through the air at breakneck speed, greatly improving your airspeed and immediately putting pressure on her opponent thanks to the amount of range the move covers. While this might not deal any damage, Solar Wind's airspeed will carry over to her aerial attacks. This is designed to be a reference to the way that Sybil is capable of performing kicks out of Solar Wind in her home title, and since this effect works for all of her aerials, it's not impossible for Sybil to use Solar Wind to chase after a forward tilt, catch an opponent with a speed boosted down air, and start a bounce combo that could potentially kill an opponent off the top of the screen. And the fun doesn't stop there either. While the speed boost of Solar Wind is a very important part of Sybil's aggression, its speed boost is fairly limited and will disappear the moment that Sybil touches the ground. If only there was a way to keep that speed going. Well, lucky for you, there is. But it's not going to be easy. You see, much like in Pseudoregalia, Sybil is capable of maintaining Solar Wind's speed boost by precisely timing her jump so that she jumps the moment she touches the ground. This technique is known as bunny hopping, and if performed correctly, Sybil is capable of carrying Solar Wind's speed boost from one side of the stage to the other, or even beyond if you launch yourself off stage. Regardless, it really lends a lot to Sybil's Go Bunny Cat design, but it should be noted that this aspect of Solar Wind is going to take some very precise timing in order to maintain, as each jump has a 5-frame window that you must hit should you wish to keep the speed going. It's definitely one of the toughest aspects to learn about Sybil as a whole, but with speed like that, it's one of her most rewarding once it's mastered. Eat your heart out, Sonic! For her recovery special, Sybil will utilize an ability that, normally, is not something that she's able to perform on her own in her home title. But much like various characters in Smash, it's a tool that's often used to reach new heights, and is arguably her best option overall. Dream Dive. With this, Sybil will tuck her legs in as she becomes encased in a bubble, and after taking a moment to build up energy, Sybil will burst out of the bubble and rocket through the air in a direction chosen by the player. This dash will deal solid damage to any opponent who gets in Sybil's way, all while Sybil continues to travel in her chosen direction without so much as flinching. But while its recovery range is very good, its small hitbox makes it highly susceptible to being interrupted if your opponent can see it coming. As a result, an opponent will be able to 2-frame this attack at the ledge if you're too predictable, so it might be best to mix up your recovery with Solar Wind if you can afford to do so. Finally, for her down special, Sybil will make use of another versatile pressure option that can either be used to lengthen combos, or trick your opponent into potential frame traps. Sunsetter. With this, Sybil will leap up into the air, and in a flash, she'll perform a fast falling strike with Dreambreaker. This attack, much like Breaker Toss and Slide, looks fairly simple at face value, as one might confuse it for an alternative version of Bowser or Yoshi's down specials. But Sunsetter sports aspects that both Assay attacks lack. Cancel windows. You see, as soon as Sybil makes contact with a solid surface, be it the ground or an opponent, she'll be able to quickly leap back into the air with a super jump that dwarfs her regular jump height. Sybil is capable of acting out of this super jump at any point, and since Sunsetter knocks opponents upwards on hit, she's more than capable of using this to catch neutral mistakes and get combos going. And since Sybil will also be able to leap off of opponents that have their shields up, she might be able to push herself out of harm's way against characters with short range. But what if your opponent sees it coming? Since Sybil hovers for a brief moment before attacking, opponents on the defensive might be able to predict this blow, dodge, and punish, as you don't have the benefit of a block stun buffer if you end up missing your opponent altogether. How does one solve this problem, I wonder? Well, how about not attacking at all? That's right. Sunsetter also sports a feint window at the beginning of the attack's animation, with this allowing Sybil to backflip through the air in order to cancel the fast fall and push herself out of harm's way. This, in turn, can cause opponents to try and punish you preemptively, which can lead into potential frame traps through a variety of fast-falling aerials. This won't work against every character on the roster, but since it'd be effective against the majority of the cast, it's still a technique that's worth learning. Next is the final smash, and for this, Sybil will embrace her purpose as she frees her opponents from their self-inflicted prisons, waking them from a nightmare of their own creation and allowing them to return to the waking world with a clear conscience. Or, at the very least, a really nasty set of bruises. This is Awakening. When the final smash starts, Sybil will attack in front of herself with a close-range strike from Dreambreaker, and should an opponent be caught by this attack, they'll be launched upwards into the air and left wide open to an oncoming beating. At this point, Sybil will leap up into the air and perform a series of rushing strikes with Dreambreaker, with this stylish multi-hitting combo racking up damage quickly and continuing to suspend her opponent in midair. And just before they're about to fall, Sybil will end the final smash with one final strike from Dreambreaker. A strike so powerful that it begins to break down the world around them. The facade has disappeared, the dream is over, and with it goes everything inside it, and that includes your opponent. At this point, the screen will fade to white before slowly fading back in, with Sybil gracefully landing on her feet before catching your falling weapon. As for her opponent, well, their fate is determined by whether or not they're over 100% damage. If they're below 100% damage, they'll be left to fall back down towards the stage, the stubbornness of the dream holding on as they're left in a hard knockdown state. But if the opponent is over 100% damage, they'll fade away into strands of light, their dream crumbling into nothing as their stock is lost. For her victory theme, Sybil will use the jingle that plays whenever she acquires a new ability in Pseudoregalia. This simple melody is a nice parallel to Samus, who also uses the item acquired jingle of Metroid for her victory theme. A classic and new Metroidvania protagonist sharing the same theme design. I couldn't ask for anything better. Victory animation number 1 will show Sybil standing on top of a pole, her stance refined and proud as she balances herself on one leg. After the camera pans up to her face, Sybil will turn her attention to the camera and give a small nod, with this referencing the pose that Sybil performs when standing on top of a pole in Pseudoregalia. Victory animation number 2 will show Sybil walking up to a small stool, and after taking a moment to turn around, she'll sit down and cross her legs. This is a reference to the various stools that Sybil can sit down on in Pseudoregalia, with this being a quick way that Sybil can recover her health after taking damage. The animation that plays when she sits down will also change depending on how much damage she had, and this aspect will be carried over to Smash as well. Finally, victory animation number 3 will have Sybil kick Dreambreaker off the floor, all before catching it and striking a confident pose. While it is an original animation, I'd be remiss if I didn't have at least one victory animation for Sybil that showed off her best features. Now that is what I like to call grade A character design. Taunt number 1 will have Sybil toss Dreambreaker into the air. After stretching, Sybil will catch the free-falling tonfa and return to her idle animation. Stretching is quite important before a workout, although I can't help but feel like I've seen this pose before. Taunt number 2 will have Sybil raise a hand to her head, her eyes closed as she attempts to retrace her steps. This is based on the Mementos item from Pseudoregalia, with this being the way that players can check the map in the latest update. When the game originally launched, there was no map, and this update does wonders for those a bit more forgetful, like myself. Finally, taunt number 3 will have Sybil turn her back to the camera, all while striking a confident pose. This taunt follows the same design philosophy as her third victory animation, in that I simply wanted to have an animation that showed off Sybil's best features. For her colors, Sybil will split her 8 main colors between a variety of costumes that the player is capable of collecting as of the latest update for Pseudoregalia. While their color schemes are all fairly similar, their drastic difference in style will help them stand out from each other quite a bit. Color number 1 is Sybil's standard appearance, featuring her black vest, cling sleeve, and muted yellow greaves. This is Sybil's main appearance once she acquires all of the main power-ups in Pseudoregalia, and while the player is capable of removing various pieces of her clothing, she'll be keeping her full outfit on this time around. Color number 2 is Sybil's professional outfit, with this black open-cut bodysuit being complemented by a white overcoat. This is the outfit acquired in Castle Sansa, and was the only other outfit that Sybil could use before the map update. Color number 3 is Sybil's guard outfit, with this having Sybil don a suit of plate armor that's dyed a muted yellow. This outfit is acquired by completing the time trial in the Empty Bailey, and out of all of Sybil's costume options, it's my least favorite by far, for reasons that I'm sure I don't need to explain. Color number 4 is Sybil's classy outfit, with this having Sybil wear a sleeveless turtleneck top with a pair of black bell-bottom pants. This outfit is acquired by completing the time trial in the Twilight Theater, and it's one of my personal favorite outfits added in the latest update. Color number 5 is Sybil's Soul Sister outfit, with this having Sybil don a unique nun outfit with open-cut pants and ropes tied around her horns. This outfit is acquired by completing the time trial in the dilapidated dungeon, and its unique style definitely stands out amongst the game's other outfits. Color number 6 is Sybil's sweater outfit, with this having Sybil don a thick turtleneck sweater, all while foregoing her sun greaves for a pair of black leggings. This outfit is acquired by completing the time trial in the Listless Library, and it's an outfit that has quickly become a fan favorite. Color number 7 is Sybil's Guardian outfit, with this having Sybil don a white leotard, along with a tiara, shoulder pads, cape, and a pair of black boots. This outfit is acquired by completing the time trial in Sansa Keep, and it's my personal favorite outfit to come out of the new update. Finally, color number 8 is Sybil's 19 outfit, a callback to one of Sybil's older designs that will switch out her half cape for a muffler, all while she sports unique greaves and a different haircut. While a bit odd when compared to the rest of her outfits, I find myself liking the muffler vest combination quite a bit. Kinda makes me wish her current design kept it intact, honestly. Pseudoregalia was a very unexpected surprise for me. In a year with some of the biggest releases in quite a while, I did not expect a small Metroidvania title on Steam to be one of my favorite games of the year, but with the game's fantastic mobility options, awesome gameplay feel, and excellent character design, I can say without hesitation that Pseudoregalia is one of the best purchases I have ever made, let alone the best one I've made this year. Currently, Pseudoregalia is only available on Steam, so my main hope right now is to one day see it get released on other platforms, if only so Sybil can gain more attention and potentially garner a following for a game like Smash. Sadly, I'm not sure how possible this will be since the developer is only one person, but if it's any consolation, she's already available to play in Rivals of Aether, and her interpretation in said game is very solid. On top of that, I highly recommend Pseudoregalia to anyone who hasn't had a chance to pick it up yet, as it's only $6 and it's worth every penny. I don't know if Sybil will ever get her chance to make the big time, but as it stands, I'm very excited for a potential sequel and will continue to support her creator's work, wherever that may lead. If you like what you saw, be sure to like and comment, as it not only helps with the algorithm, but also gives me a much needed boost in morale. If you want to see more, be sure to subscribe, and if you want to jump right into the other movesets that I've made, follow the link in the description to go to my Challenger Concept playlist. Just be sure you press that little bell icon, as doing so will leave you assured that you'll never miss a future upload. For now, I've been Felicia Fan, and I hope that you have a good one.